Our state has some incredible problems. My name is Lynn Hinderrocker. I'm here to talk about that with you and talk about the trends that have shaped this state and dragged us in one direction or another. We're not really we're not realizing the dream we had way back in the early 2000s or even around 2008 or 9 or 10. My name is Lynn Hinderrocker. Welcome to WowBiz Nebraska. We're going to get it on right now. You may be a genius, but you can't make it on your own. That's our message for the first half of WowBiz Nebraska today. My name is Lynn Hinderrocker. I want to talk to you today about partnerships, strategic alliances, joint ventures, cross promotions, coming together at a business and a strategic level to make 1 and 1 equal 3. Speaking about 1 and 1 equaling 3, it's a great segue. Bruce Arendt here, great to have you.
That was smooth.
Yeah, thank you again. And we missed you in the last show, so I'm so glad to have you back.
Thank you.
You bet, my pleasure. And I'm eager to visit with you about bringing companies together, either temporarily or somewhat permanently.
Okay.
And what is the purpose and the value of that? Because I think in the small business sector, not much is happening there. In the large businesses, we see it all the time.
All the time.
Yeah. So when this topic comes to mind, have you ever been approached or approached anybody else and say, I would like to visit about it, some kind of a synergistic business relationship?
I've been approached in the corporate world as part of a company that we did strategic alliances.
Okay.
Before.
Excellent.
So,
and how did that work out, by the way?
Very well.
Yeah?
Very well. Yeah, it actually did. And but it's a real process because you've got two cultures that you have to try to merge and work together and everything. But, the bigger picture was it was a good thing to do.
Now, was it mostly about increasing sales revenues for both of you, or was it about decreasing costs for both of you?
I would say mostly about sales to new markets.
Yeah. I think that probably is maybe 40 to 50% of the rationale in most cases.
Right.
Companies kind of get going and they kind of get blocked into one market segment, and they know there's growth out there.
Right.
But they don't quite know how to go after it.
And it would be expensive to try to go after those new segments yourself. I mean, you could do it, but it would be a whole different type of an expense and different type of process. But if you can partner with somebody who's already there, then that helps.
Yeah. No, absolutely. The cost of
sense.
Advertising and more sales reps and trade shows and stuff, that can eat up all the profit. Even if you're successful, it could eat up the profits for the first 2-3 years.
Right, exactly.
So, but what would you guess, and this is not an easy thing, goes into the chemistry that creates a successful alliance or partnership? What considerations, would go through your mind? Because this is a tough deal.
You'd have to. I think the primary thing is compatibility of the two businesses. Are they a yin and a yang? I mean, are they going to complement one another?
Right. Right. That's absolutely true. Trusting, obviously.
Trusting is huge.
Is the first thing.
If you can't trust your partner.
Yeah. And you have to kind of determine what it is that you're going to share, right? And another part is what constitutes success. What is really success here?
Yeah.
Because some people will they might be happy. We'll get a few calls as a result of knowing these guys. The other guys are over there going, that's not enough.
It could be a lot of work for not much gain.
It could be.
Yeah. If you don't do it with the right goals in mind. And you might have to kind of redistill things as you go along, because out of the chute, you might not know exactly how it's going to work or what you should be doing.
Exactly right. That's a great point. And the thing that I've had in my experience with these kinds of things is because people have different operating styles. I'll never forget, I read a whole lengthy thing about, and this goes back about a decade or so, about TCI, which is Telecommunications Inc., big telecommunications firm, and they were working with AT&T. They formed a joint venture with AT&T.
Okay.
Yeah, and the AT&T, and so they would have meetings periodically, I think at least monthly, and send all their middle managers or whatever there and try to figure out how we doing on our projects. And AT&T had a very formal style. They wrote things up, everything, the problems to be distilled, and then the solution, et cetera. They just had a formal feeling about it. The TCI guys were kind of entrepreneurial road rangers. Shoot from the hip a little bit. Wealthy entrepreneurs.
Right.
Who like to walk into a meeting, kind of dominate the meeting, tell everybody what they should do, and say, let's go have a drink, right? And these two cultures and their respective CEOs had difficulty coming together around the process.
Yeah, it's kind of oil and water, really, on a lot of it.
Yeah, you know.
But how did that end up?
It didn't end up well. They had to, they couldn't get along, you know, and they couldn't really cooperate. TCI expected to get an email back or a phone call back within a day of leaving a message. AT&T guys are like, oh, no. You send us a letter, we have a committee meeting, and then maybe 2 weeks we'll get back to you. Well, you can't operate like that. So anyway, that's also a very interesting piece. Now, lately, there's some big companies that are doing a lot of things. Mm-hmm. One of them would be Ford and Eddie Bauer.
Oh, okay, yeah.
All right, so they licensed, as it turned out, Ford licensed the utilization of the Eddie Bauer brand.
Right.
I think they got their designers kind of involved in the development of a luxury SUV. One of them, kind of an outdoorsy, upscale feel to it. You know.
So the look of the interior reflected kind of the vibe of the Eddie Bauer line.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah, I think that's exactly right. Maybe certain types of trim or finishing on the leather and things like that.
Right.
And kind of a Ralph Lauren look. Okay. You know, same type of deal. And so that worked synergistically because. If Ford would have come up with their own design like that, they could have pulled it off, but they wouldn't have had the specialness.
Well, there's the name recognition too. There's a lot of Eddie Bauer fans.
Oh man, people. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So
the question is, what's the value? How much do you pay on a percentage basis to Eddie Bauer?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And how much more expensive is that? Do you price it? You know, to compensate for the licensing charges.
And what are the results? Are you selling that many more vehicles because of that name?
Right.
Can you quantify it?
That's right. Or maybe the marketing strategy, maybe it's just to throw it out there and kind of add a little, luster or cachet to the Ford brand.
Right.
And they don't really care that much how many units they end up selling.
But nobody else has that name in their line, so they set themselves apart.
It's a way to differentiate yourself.
Right.
Yeah. Now, there's another interesting thing from a functional point of view. We all know about Uber, and we know about Spotify, right? Okay. It's a competitor of Pandora, a pretty progressive music genome operator, you know. And, of course, the beauty of both Pandora and Spotify is personalization. Right? They get to know the kind of music you like. And I mix my jazz with Gregorian chants that's kind of what I do, and it's good, you know. Yeah. Little James Brown on the side.
Right.
Spotify seems to know. They understand. I don't know. But anyway, so Uber has cut a deal with Spotify, and they've got the receiver and so on, and somehow they can tell when somebody says, I want to be picked up by Uber and taken to the grocery store or whatever.
Yeah. When
you get in the vehicle, your favorite songs that are on Spotify come on.
That is awesome.
Isn't that great?
It really is. That's brilliant.
Now that is what I call experiential branding.
Yeah.
Because now you're actually feeling what the brand is. And the brand has become more. Now Spotify is an on-the-go kind of a situation, and Uber is much more customized, much more personalized. Like, we really get you, you know? I love it.
I wonder if the people writing realize what's going on.
Or if it's just a wonderful kismet.
Right? Playing my favorite song. Yeah.
That's really something. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, the real issue, though, here in the state of Nebraska is the fact that, you know, I'm sure you know this. I'm going to spout out a few rough stats, okay? Don't hold me to them too tight. But about 70% of all the new jobs that are created in the state of Nebraska are with sole proprietors. 70%. Yeah. Small business is responsible for most job creation.
Has that gone back historically quite a ways, or is that fairly recent?
No, that's kind of a long-term trend.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Huh. And the 70% of all small businesses that start up every year are sole proprietors, one-person startups. Huh. Yeah. They may add subcontractors or have a few people around the office or whatever, but generally speaking, you know. So it's very interesting here, coming back to that quote I opened the show with Steve Ballmer, who's the former chairman of Microsoft, when he said, you may be a genius, but you can't make it on your own.
Yeah.
Can't be done. Now, do the 70% of the 70% across the entire state of Nebraska, do they know that? Do they believe that? And is their response, I got to get a partner? Or is it like, I don't want to even think about that?
They might have to learn the hard way.
Yeah.
If that's the case.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, think about this.
Yeah.
Of those 70% that I just mentioned to you, I'm going to use another, 70% have problems with cash flow. 70% don't do that well. 30% do. 30% of all sole proprietors that are new or that have started up here in the state of Nebraska,
They're robust and they're...
yeah, they do
growing,
well.
yeah. Okay.
They do well. But 70% don't. They struggle to make cash flow, debt, and all that other stuff. So you would think that you could make a good pitch about the wisdom of trying a joint venture, some form of partnership, you know? And I guess I would think about it this way. You know, there's got to be a way. I mean, joint ventures are not the same thing as a strategic alliance. Strategic alliances are not the same as a cross promotion.
Right.
Right. So what would you think? Where would you begin? Where would you say, okay, there's a couple of people out there that said they would be open to working with me. They're not quite sure how to do it or whatever. What would be your first proposal in terms of how do we do this?
Wow.
Yeah.
I'd really want to know what their, and this is such an overused term, but their core values in terms of what they want to accomplish, who they want to serve, what are they all about?
Yeah.
I want to see if I even connect with that at that level,
Yeah.
because from there, that's kind of the foundation in my mind with business is why are you doing what you're doing? And it could be an entirely different group, but there might be a common denominator there in terms of what you both.
So melding of values is where you're
That's
thinking.
where I would start.
See, that's a very interesting thing. I think a lot of people would not start there.
Really?
I think a lot of people would say, I would do a cross promotion first because that's the least liability. That's the least risky. If the promotion didn't work out, we say goodbye.
Okay, well, I
you see what I'm getting at there?
Yeah, I think I was thinking in terms of my very, very first steps, but yes, cross promotion
would be a way to start.
Yeah, at least you know.
See, if their customers like our stuff and
Right.
our customers like their stuff.
Right, yeah.
And again, you can get out of it after a 6 or 8 week period of time and move on.
You're not married.
You're not married.
Yeah.
So I think that would probably be a reasonable step forward. And then after that, what do you think after that? I'm thinking joint venture. So why don't we develop a product together? Or
co-branding a product.
Co-branding,
possibly.
or maybe a website that we both own.
Because you've tested the water and you know that it's okay to get into that pond because you were able to cross promote.
Yeah, exactly.
So now go a little bit deeper.
Yeah, I think a joint venture in that regard, having something tangible that we're going to create together.
Okay.
The problem is, you're busy, they're busy. Pretty soon nothing gets done on the project.
Yeah.
You call up your partner and say, hey guys, I mean, you haven't done nothing. I don't see anything happening. Well, I haven't seen anything happening on your end.
Yeah.
Right, that can happen. All right, I'm just saying. I think these things can happen, and I tell you what, I would not let that kind of stuff get in the way, because I think the upside is sufficiently high that it's worth tolerating their quirks and kind of going along with it.
Yeah. You'd have to both have the same target goal, though. You'd have to really be committed to, here's what we want to achieve. Otherwise, it's just going to fall apart.
What if, I think you'd have to know their goal.
Oh, yeah.
Because their goal and it might be different than your goal.
Yeah, but if it's complementary to your goal.
Complementary. Yeah, that's a different thing.
But it's,
Yeah, if he leans across or she leans across the table and says, what are you truly trying to get out of this? And you say, well, I'd like to reinforce my core users and make sure that they come back and use us 3 times a month instead of once a month. Well, that's okay. Mm-hmm. What are you trying to get out of it? Well, I'm trying to get some prospecting and trial and people who don't even barely know us to just, step into the pond and try us once or twice.
Yeah.
Well, those are reasonable. I think those are reasonable.
Together.
Could be compatible and so on. Well, Bruce Arendt, this is a good conversation to have, because there's so many people I think that are looking for how do I get out of this box or this pattern that I'm in. I want to do better.
Probably 70%.
Maybe so. I used that number 3 times.
Right.
Can't go wrong.
All
right. Well, Mr. Bruce Arendt with Arendt Creative here in Omaha, Nebraska, you're an outstanding illustrator. You're an outstanding writer. You're, as my wife says, you do 2 things at one time there. And you have some award-winning books, and you work with the educational system here in Nebraska, so thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Arendt Creative, that's A-R-A-N, not E-R-R-A-N.
No, that's... Yeah,
that would be a different thing entirely.
Yeah, that occasionally happens.
You're making an error. No. ARANT.com or creative.com. All right.
Creative Group.
Let's talk about the sponsors.
Okay.
I love them. They're so... it's been so helpful as we get this unusual show off the ground and move forward talking about things that have never been talked about before in this particular format, I don't think. And of course, the first one, as you know, is Curzon Promotional Graphics.
Right.
Yeah. Now, visuals, I should say, Bruce, why don't you just tell us for a few minutes about the importance of graphics in this fast-paced, frivolous, fragmented world that we live in.
You have to have something that's going to stop you. You know, you have to.
It's got to be a head turner.
It's got to be a head turner.
Right.
You can't blend in.
Right.
You know.
Right.
So,
Right.
No,
So
beautiful work.
many firms like Curzon are production-oriented firms. They'll say, we'll get it done and have a price and so on. Others are creative types, right? Where they're designers.
Right.
These people kind of combine them.
Right.
Right. Kind of a joint venture.
I was just going to say, it's a joint venture.
Right. So anyway, CurzonPromotionalGraphics.com. Check them out. Go there for all your graphic needs. And I promise you this, your graphic needs are more today than they were a few years ago.
Oh, absolutely.
That's a safe statement. Now the next sponsor, I'm so proud to introduce AlphaTech1.com. This is a small firm, kind of new, a startup, and they're able to stick their neck way out and say, we'll do something nobody else does. We'll come pick up your laptop. We'll come pick up your desktop. We'll figure it out. We'll take it back to the desk, back to the office, let you know what it's going to be. They're very well priced, of course, and bring it back and do it all for you. And you can sit in your lazy boy for the entire period of time.
Oh, that's amazing, because a lot of times you don't know where to take stuff anyhow,
Right.
Or you've got so many choices you don't know who
So
to trust.
hard to know,
Right.
and you're a little embarrassed, and they say, well, that won't be any big deal, just bring it in. You're like, I see 17 chords here. You want to tell me what chord to pull first?
I've been through it, I know.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
So AlphaTech One, that's with O-N-E, AlphaTech1.com. Please check them out. They will eagerly solve all of your computer repair problems, be it software or hardware.
Okay.
That's good. Okay. All right, we're gonna shift the groove.
Okay.
All right, we're gonna shift the mood.
Okay.
It's such a pleasure to have another creative person on the show with me, right? And I speak a lot about innovation, and of course, whatever precedes innovation in business is creativity. So innovation is actionable creativity, right? So it's so nice to have a creative person on, because so many times I'm talking to business owners and corporations, and they're like, we're operationally very good, financially, we know how to manufacture and ship things. We don't know so much about creativity. Yeah. And so they kind of say, it can't be that hard, and it can't be that important. I don't know anybody else that talks about it over lunch.
Right. It's harder to quantify a lot of times.
Right.
You can't define it.
I've got some papers over here.
Okay.
And so I don't want the camera to focus on me while I go over here and get the papers, all right? So you talk to the camera about the importance of creativity in business.
Well,
you could probably do that.
Well, as an illustrator and an author, I work in creativity all the time. And I was telling Lynn one time, I said my greatest joy is when I know I have to draw or write for someone to communicate what they want to communicate. There's nothing better. I mean, I love that process of just delving into what they're trying to accomplish. And I guess that's the left brain side of me that is always thinking, who's the audience, for the creativity?
So you got that discipline and focus.
Right. I mean,
left hemisphere of the brain. Yep.
I can't just be creating for the sake of, I could, and that would be fun.
Yeah.
But when you're in business
Yeah.
as a creative, you have to be thinking of the audience and the reason why you're creating it, for whom you're creating it.
But the business owner that's watching us right now, or sales manager, or whatever, is saying, okay, but let's get to the right brain stuff. Let's get to where do the ideas come from, right? Where do you come up with this stuff, right? And eventually you put a cap on it and say, okay, we're just going to do these and this way and all that.
Right.
But ultimately, somebody has to come up with an idea, maybe more than one.
And that's the really fun part.
That's the fun part.
It
That's
is.
the good part. Now, let's talk about, let's say, why is it? Why is creativity so important in business? I know that seems obvious to you and I, but not everybody fully would appreciate that. What's the value of the whole thing?
Well, in my mind, at least, it's an aspect that will set a business a little bit apart from everybody else. If they're doing something creative, I hate to reuse the word, but if they're doing something a little bit more noticeable than anybody else, or more clever or innovative, and it doesn't have to take the form of artwork. It can take the form of processes, it's like the Spotify and Uber thing. That's very creative.
Yeah.
I love that.
Absolutely. So many companies feel that they can grow their business and get market share, increase the percentage of the market that they do business with, by performing optimally, right? Just by their functional performance. I've been talking recently to people in the architecture industry. You know, they're not any different than anybody else, but every single one of those firms say, we are the best. We are really good at what we do. We really are. Next place, oh, we are the best, etc., right? And on it goes. And they never, in those dialogues, tell me what the customer's thinking because they don't know. They think they do, but they don't know, right? So it's a little bit sad in a way because these people are operating, and it's not that they aren't making money, by the way. That makes it even more mysterious.
Yeah. The dangerous thing is creating in a vacuum, though.
Creating in a vacuum.
You know, that's by that meaning that you are self perpetuating your own ideas, and you're not really reaching to the outside to see what you should be doing.
You know, by the way, one of the places where creativity manifests best or is most easily used is in meetings, isn't it?
Yeah.
Huh?
I've been in hundreds of them.
Yes.
Yeah.
And most of them are rather boring, somewhat mundane, led by boring people.
Yeah.
People are sneaking a look at their email while the meeting's going on, and nothing great comes out of it. And finally, the boss says, well, I think we should do this. Everybody goes, yeah.
Because they want to get out of there.
They want to get out of there.
Yeah.
And
I always found it was a good time to doodle because they think I'm taking notes and I'm just drawing pictures.
You know, I've been sitting in these meetings. Sometimes I get hired to appraise meetings and how they're organized and so on. They all split, you know, and the boss is sitting there going, what's the matter with these people?
Yeah.
Why are they like this? I don't get it. Why isn't anybody giving me some fresh action? And I said, well, first of all, it's your fault.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the first thing. And secondly, the environment that you're working within is rather poor. For instance, we talked earlier today about having in a meeting room, or especially when we're trying to come up with new strategies or something, right? And on one side of the room, you should have a whiteboard that says what? Kind of the mission.
The mission, yeah. What do you want to accomplish?
What's the purpose of this?
Right.
And then on the other side of the room, we have another one about the process.
The actions.
Just how we do things in this room. So I mean, we don't interrupt people. You know, we don't get personal and point at people. That sucks. That idea. You know, stuff like that. So we make it clear how we're going to run this thing. And boy,
people have to feel like they're not being threatened or judged.
Right.
When they're in a meeting like that, if they're throwing out ideas.
Especially
you can't squash anything faster than the feeling of judgment or condemnation for being, you know, having an idea. And I've seen it happen plenty.
Many times, yes, in creative meetings.
Oh,
well, you know, we got this thing right here in front of us. One of the things that's interesting that I like to do, people will say, well, then how do you come up with ideas? I hear that now and then.
Okay.
And part of the answer, not all the answer, but part of the answer is to collect materials, newspapers, magazines, snippets of paper, right, that have kind of ideas or headlines on them. So let's play a little game here, all right? And I'm going to let you dig through that right away.
First?
This is just it's a thick. How many documents would you say?
Oh, there's got to be
50, 60, 70?
I was going to say closer to 100.
This is 100 sheets of paper.
I have no idea what I'm doing
Okay,
here, but
pull it out. Oh, so here we are. All right, now this is very interesting. Huh?
Okay, should I read this?
Please read it.
So you apparently jotted this down.
I've jotted this down.
It says, the most important thing to people is, then in quotes, a job that I love. And that was from Jim Clifton.
Yeah, at Gallup.
Of Gallup.
Right.
Okay.
And I pulled that quote out of a book called The Job Board that he wrote several years ago.
So a job that I love is the most important thing.
Yeah, the most important thing. And that's a very interesting thing because, for instance, I'm visiting with the accounting industry at a conference coming up in a few weeks.
Okay.
And if I asked them all, I said, how many of you would say, what percentage of the people in your company would say, quite sincerely, I love this job?
It'd be a pretty small number.
You think it'd be a small number?
I know it would be.
I think it would be as well.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So the question then becomes, and we can't go on at length about this, but how do you close that gap, right? Because here come the millennials, 43% of them are sick of their jobs and are already planning on leaving, right? The rest of them are burnt out. They're working so hard and they are absolutely reaching, you know, I'm talking about 24-year-old kids that are suffering from executive burnout, right? And that's why they're getting out.
But just think if you could somehow transform the processes or the environment or something So that people would enjoy what they're doing.
So they would love
it.
their jobs. Let's do a show about that later. All right, let's go. Choose another one.
Oh,
Choose.
really?
Yeah. Now, wait a minute. Do you think we should we do the little rating?
I feel like
let's
Vanna
rate our
White.
conversation.
Oh.
We have a little card message, kind of like the Olympics, and I want you and I to 1 through 5 rate how helpful the little conversation we just had really is to the viewer now. How helpful it would be if I were watching and I said, "Oh, those guys are talking about something that sucks. That's no good," or "Wow, I really enjoyed what they said." Let's write it down right now. Okay. Here we go.
Do I write just
Write it down, then hold it up to the camera, not to me, so that you kind of hold it up to the camera, and I'm going to hold up mine to the camera. All right. So here it is. Now we'll look and see what we have. 4 and 5.
4 and 5.
Not bad.
Yeah.
No, we both
close.
thought that was good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I want you to feel comfortable telling me, Lynn, this conversation sucks.
Well, I didn't think. No, but I think
that would be a great show. We just dedicate an entire show to how to cultivate a culture.
to me, a 5 we would be presenting all of the answers along with the questions.
Yeah, we don't have time, but that you're right. No, that's a great one. Let's do another one.
Okay.
Let's do it. Find something else in there that will trip
Feel
the
something that
trigger.
feels
All right, we
really
got
different.
just a couple minutes left. Unfortunately, we should do this again sometime. Right. All right. So what do we have here? Right. What do we have here? No, on the front. I think this would be on the front. Let's see what we have. Oh, here it is. Co-working in the restaurant industry. Why don't you turn around and kind of hold it up nice and static so somebody can see that if they can. So this is a big trend in the restaurant industry. And the trend is in between lunch hour and dinner hour.
Okay.
All right. They open it up and try to turn it into a workspace. So freelancers and people that are bopping around with a laptop.
So between 2 and 5 or something?
Yes. It's considered a co-working space. So if you're a restaurant owner, you don't dislike those guys that are hanging around at table 13,
right,
and they never seem to get up and leave, so we can clean the table. That's not the idea. The idea is co-working, all right? So it's a shared space, it's productive. Maybe they can even have a laser printer over in the bathroom somewhere, I don't know. But
That's a great idea.
It's a great idea.
I had not heard of that.
To build this incredible environment for...
it's a gathering space.
It's a gathering space. You don't have to be a restaurant user or customer. You can come there and do all kinds of work. Great Wi-Fi, all that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and maybe even share ideas.
I would do that.
Kind of, me too. We'd probably meet there, I don't know. All right, Bruce Aaron, you're a wonderful commentator, a great guest. I really appreciate your help on this.
Thank you.
We'll do this exercise again. Because
Okay.
it's lots of fun to speculate about the impact of trends and creativity and doing new things.
I have to ask, how many years have you been collecting?
It'll be about 7 or 8 years.
Really?
Yeah, it's right down there. Just in case I run out of ideas, I just... All right?
Well, that's good.
Along with the sound effects. That's a part of the whole
That's the
deal.
best
All right. WowBiz Nebraska is wrapping up. My name is Lynn Hinderrocker. Thank you so much. I'm here with Bruce Aaron. We're uncovering trends, we're doing new things, and we're encouraging you to think about joint ventures and alliances and partnerships. We'll see you next time right here on WowBiz Nebraska. Thanks again. Bye-bye.